If I was starting over on guitar today, I would not do what I did when I first started playing in the early 90s. Times have changed, resources have changed, and a lot of this has been because of the massive changes in technology. So today I want to show you exactly how I would approach learning guitar if I was starting from scratch, because most of us are time poor, distracted, and want maximum results from our limited practice time. And if you want a step-by-step breakdown of everything I'm covering in this video, then make sure you grab my free guitar roadmap in the description below. Alright, let's get into it. Even if you have a guitar teacher, you need to get comfortable using internet resources to learn songs. When my students do this, I see big improvements in their playing because they're seeking out the songs they actually want to learn, which keeps them motivated and excited about playing. Back in the 90s, I spent months trying to figure out songs by rewinding cassette tapes, but now you can find pretty accurate tutorials in minutes. You can save yourself so much time learning songs because now there are YouTube tutorials on almost every song you want to play. But it's also great to check out videos of concerts so you can see what guitar parts they play live. I use this all the time to help students play accurate versions of songs. But as great as video is, it can slow you down if that's the only resource you use. If you develop some basic music literacy like reading tab and chord diagrams, then you can use sites like Ultimate Guitar and Songster, which have the songs written out for you. I would recommend Ultimate Guitar for learning the basic chord structure of songs, and Songster if you want to learn more detailed parts like riffs and solos. Just remember that most tabs are wrong, but don't let that stop you. You can always piece together more accurate versions by combining multiple sources and doing this next very important thing. The most overlooked way to increase your speed and accuracy when learning songs is to develop your ears. That way you can use your own judgment instead of just hoping that somehow the tab is correct. Tab leaves out most of the details in the music anyway. Rhythm, dynamics, articulation, tone, but all of this information is right there in the original recording of the song. You might notice that a guitar solo uses a really specific guitar tone, so you try and replicate that. And that leads to experimenting more with the sounds that you pull from your instrument. Or it might be that you notice the differences in dynamics. So you copy that and start playing with more sensitivity to dynamics. If you train your ears in this way, you'll hear way more detail in the music, and that translates to your playing sounding more detailed and musical. It also means you'll learn songs faster and be able to respond better when playing with other musicians. If you really want to get good at guitar, you need to spend a lot of time on the instrument. Practicing is not some sort of stage to get over before the real guitar playing begins. So if you want to stick with it, then make it fun because otherwise you'll quit. But it's not simply about doing the fun things. That's not the part students struggle with. The hard part is making the things that feel like work fun. So how do you do that? I do it by designing my own practice around improvising. And that's because my goal as a player is to be creative and speak through my instrument in my own way. So let's take an example of something that students find boring. How about scales? Now I happen to love scales, but maybe that's just because I'm a guitar nerd. But if I treated scales the way that a lot of students do, I would also find it mind-numbing because they just run up and down the scale and then repeat it. But the purpose of learning a scale is to make music with it. So why not design your practice around making music instead? Find a backing track that works with the scale and then just mix things up. Start in a small area and expand that area. Suddenly your brain is making musical decisions like how many times to play a note, what type of articulation to use, what rhythms to play. Now your scale practice includes articulation, rhythm, dynamics, phrasing, and timing. It's the same thing as when I did basketball training years ago. We didn't just practice shooting from one spot. The coach got us practicing all sorts of drills that simulated what actually happens in a real game. The same is true for music. If you practice playing actual music, you'll kill many birds with one stone instead of having a list of 500 isolated things that you never get around to practicing. So that leads to the big question. Besides learning songs, what are the most important things that you should work on? Well, I think it's good to break it down into 3 key areas. Good technique allows you to play the things that you want to play in the way that you want to play them. In those early years, I wasn't really thinking too much about developing the technical skills I needed to become the player that I wanted to be. That meant my practice was not very targeted, and I wouldn't practice the same technical skills consistently. But if you structure your practice so each session includes a balance of essential left and right hand techniques, you'll progress faster and become more well-rounded. If we think about how the fretting hand functions, there's quite a difference between single note and chordal playing. When you play chords, you're holding grips, which builds hand strength and the ability to form complex shapes. But with single notes, you're developing agility and finger independence because you have to change from note to note much faster than you change chords. So for single note playing, you could practice variations of the spider walk exercise, scale exercises, or single note melodies to develop your agility and finger independence. And for chord shapes and grip strength, you could practice changing between chords or strumming through chord-based songs. For the right hand, the difference is in the precision and range of the movement. When you're strumming, you have this big wide movement that goes through a lot of strings, whereas picking single notes requires more precision and accuracy. The first step with strumming is to be able to play on one chord with 8th note strumming patterns. There's the classic down, down, up, up, down pattern, but don't stop with just that one. Learn how to connect your strumming patterns with the downbeats and offbeats and create your own 8th note patterns. Aside from that, the best thing that you can do is just to learn heaps of songs that feature strumming, which is great for coordinating both hands. And for the single notes, a great thing to do is practice small 2-string patterns through the pentatonic scale with alternate picking like this. The key to this exercise is to repeat simple picking patterns so your picking hand gets to really learn each group rather than the typical method of just rushing up and down the whole position. These are just examples, but the main thing is balance. Make sure you're working on chords, single notes, strumming, and picking in every practice session. Fretboard knowledge is all about knowing where things are on the guitar fretboard. You can start by learning the names of the notes and then understanding the 2 main ways to group the notes, scales and chords. For chords, start by learning the open chords, then power chords, then bar chords. For scales, learn the pentatonic scale first and then the major scale. You'll get pretty far with just those 2. Especially if you learn them across the whole fretboard in multiple keys. The next step is to understand the relationships between everything you play. How to build chords from major scales, chord progressions, what scales to play over different chords. But it's more important to play things rather than explain them. So prioritize the practical stuff over the theory. Rhythm is a big weakness for a lot of guitar players. The best thing you can do is start working on it now because it's the thing that makes your music feel good. You can play with all the technique you want, but if it doesn't feel good, people won't want to hear it. Can you get your offbeat 8th notes exactly between the click without rushing? If you can, you're off to a good start. If not, learn to count, use the metronome and try and lock in with it. For your chordal playing, get your strumming patterns dialed in so the downstrokes are on the downbeats and the upstrokes are on the offbeats. If all this makes sense, but you're not sure how to organize it into a practice routine, grab my free guitar roadmap in the description. And if you want to skip the trial and error and work with me directly, I take on a small number of clients in my coaching program. You'll find that link below as well. And if you're sick of playing the same old chords and want to take your chord playing all over the fretboard, check out this video next. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.